Hey, sup everybody. My name is Philip Peary. Today will be my first time ever contributing to an open source project, and I thought I'd record it. This is also my first YouTube video ever, so yeah, what could go wrong? Right, so to get started, switch screens over here. I've got my giant mouse cursor over here, and yeah, let's get started. So I've already picked a project that I'd like to contribute to. And the project I'll be contributing to is this company over here, Superbase.io. So as you can see here, it's a Firebase alternative and it's open source, so means we can contribute. Another thing I really like about them is the tagline here at the bottom of the page, build in a weekend, scale to millions. So hopefully one day we get to build a video on this. So yeah, let's get started. What's really helpful here is that they've already got a link to their GitHub account. So I'm gonna click that and I'm gonna pick the very first repository I see over here, Superbase. I think this should have some insights for us. So in here, they give us a bit of a list of the features they have. Firstly, hosted Postgres database, real-time subscription. So if you've ever used Firebase, you know, it gives you those really nice real-time features. You get that here with Superbase as well. Also baked in is authentication and authorization. This is a really cool feature. In fact, this is what we'll be contributing to. And a few others like storage functions coming soon. And also really helpful over here is that they've got an architecture. So we get to see what it's like, I guess, composed of. Um, right, so they've got Kong over there, go through Postgres real time, and I've already picked the project we'll be contributing to, and it's this here, go through. And yeah, so since I've picked one, let's check it out. Go through over here. Now, two reasons I picked it out. Firstly, it's written in Go, and over here in languages, and I really like Go, so I thought, why not? Let's start right there. And the other reason is over here inside of issues. So this is a really good place to start if you want to contribute to a project. Issues, you can see all the issues that you could help fix. And what I like about this particular project over here is that they've got some hints for good first issues like this over here in purple. So this will help us get started easily. So let's pick this one over here. Email addresses are case sensitive, not normalized. And what do they have over here? Here's an example of it. You've got an uppercase J, lowercase j, uppercase J, and uppercase E, and they are all different emails/users. Expected outcome is, what does it say here? I would expect them to all refer to the same email/user. Okay. Now, I mean, must be like a really simple bug to fix, and I suspect that they left this here deliberately because of this over here. Good first issue. I think just to open it up for more of us to contribute to, because I mean, there's some really great developers working on this project, and like you can see over here, and for them to have not fixed it means they're just trying to leave a window open for the rest of us, I guess. So let's try this out. So first thing you do is go to the repository over here as source code. Actually, that would be the second thing. First thing you do is actually fork it. Now, what forking does is that it copies this to your own GitHub account, right? What that looks like is, let me go to my GitHub account, ipip. I've already forked it, by the way. To fork, you just click on the fork button over here, and when you head over there, go down to your repositories, you should see your forked repo over here. And here I have go through forked over here, so it appears in my own account, GitHub account. Once you have that, you then want to clone it to your machine so you can actually write some code. So three ways you can do that. You can use HTTPS, SSH, or you can use the GitHub command line to I prefer this. I already used this and cloned this to my machine. With that done, let's write some code. Okay, let's just add another workspace over here and bring up a terminal. It would help to have it over here, I think. Right. So I'm gonna go over to my projects directory over here, and I cloned it into this over here, go through. So as you can see, it's clean. I haven't committed anything yet. You don't see my name appearing anywhere over here. And I'd like to first have a look at the project. So first thing you see over here is a typical Go project. You've got your entry point over here with main.go split, nice and clean entry point over here. So from the cmd.root command, I can already tell they're using Cobra, which is a framework for building Go command line tools or apps. With Cobra, there's always the CMD directory where you put up all your commands in separate Go files. So they have that. I'm gonna look over here inside of models, and there's already a user.go. So I suspect this would be a good place to look. But just to be safe, let's just see if there's any other places where there's user.go. So there's under API, there's user.go, models, user.go. Now, what I suspect over here is that models user.go is the like single source of truth, and then everything else will go through that. So API would be calling functions inside of this models user.go. Could be wrong, right? So let's start with that. So I'm gonna take a chance on this and go this. That wasn't supposed to open over there, but what the heck? Let's try that again. Just take a shortcut. Models user.go. Again, come on. Okay, anyways. Cool, so we've got this user struct over here, right? Our single source of truth, I guess, for this. And inside our user, surprise, surprise, we've got an email. A cool feature I like about Go is this over here. It's got built-in JSON support, so we don't need any external libraries to do any JSON. So with your struct, you can already specify over here which JSON fields you need. In this case, it will be JSON email. Yeah, that over there. Okay, cool. So yeah, I really like that Go's got this built-in support for JSON over here. Right, and the function that will be of interest to us over here is this new user. I mean, remember firstly that can we go back to that issues over here? Yeah, and the issues, case insensitive. Yeah, over here. So when reproducing, says that steps to reproduce. When you sign up with the password, sign out, and you sign in with that, you get invalid email or password error. Okay, so I think we're going to focus on this, the fact that it's a sign up and sign in. So when signing up, you're creating the user. When you're signing in, you're retrieving the user from the database. So these are likely the two places we'd want to fix. Okay. So a new user would be where you'd be signing up. So I'm sure they've got another method for signing up under the API. Under API/user.go. But this being the single source of truth, closest to the database, this is where we want to fix this. Now, new user already has an email over here that it gets as an argument, right? And we see that it returns a pointer to a user over here. Didn't mean to delete that. Okay. I actually just meant to highlight it, but yeah, cool. Right, and it returns a user over here. Some hints as to what we can do over here already. We see they're doing something with the password over here, and that's they're hashing it, right? So they receive a password, they hash it, do some error checking, and then save it as PW or PW over here. I was going to say PWD, but it's actually PW, okay? And then they return the user with an encrypted password, PW over here. We're going to do the same thing for email, but what we're going to do instead is we want to turn the email into a lowercase email. So every time a user signs up, all the emails are going to be lowercase, right? I think that's good enough. We want to also follow conventions over here. Typically, what I would do in this case would be I'll say something like lowercase email equals and do something there to get a lowercase email. But I also want to stick to conventions just out of respect for the developers who wrote this. And I'm also going to use like a short email, I guess something like maybe 2 characters or even 1. And I'll stick to convention over here. Another thing that will help is documentation. We need to see what the gold standard library offers us for dealing with this lowercase. And for that, I've got this nifty little tool called DevDocs that I like using. Right, so DevDocs over here allows me to have the documentation offline to a whole lot of languages, including Go. Now, I could go and search for the strings package over here, or I could just search for it. I know that with Go, we've got this strings package, and we've got a lot of helpful methods in there, or helpful functions. And the one I'm looking for over here is called, well, I can just search for something to do with lowering. So let's say lower, and there's this to lower. Okay, here's its function signature over here. To lower takes a string as parameter and returns a string over there. Cool, good enough, simple enough. Cool. So again, sticking with convention, we're going to say E. Doesn't return an error or anything, just returns a string. So um, we don't have an E declared anywhere else, so you're going to use this shorthand syntax that declares the variable for us. And then we're going to use the strings package, strings, over here, dot um, to lower, if I can type. And already we get some highlighting over here. To lower returns, yeah. This is all thanks to COC. I'm using just plain Vim over here, so I'm using the COC plugin to give me some language support as well. Strings to lower, and we wanna change the email to a lowercase email over here. Yeah, okay. And this over here just tells us that it's declared but not used, so let's use it. So instead of an email over here, we're gonna use E. Good enough. Okay, so that takes care of that first issue over here, the sign up. Right, so now we can be sure that all emails when we sign up are gonna be lowercase. Great. But that doesn't take care of this other issue, the sign in. Reason why I say this is because what happens when you already have users with um, mixed case emails in the database? So we want to take care of that scenario too. And to do that, we need to look for, typically there's always some kind of find user by or something like that. So I'm just going to search for find user by, and we already have one over here. Find user by confirmation token, and definitely not what we're looking for. But what we are looking for is right over here, right? Find user by email and audience. Okay, this looks like it could be the right function. And let's see over here, we've got email as a parameter and returns a user, a pointer to a user. And what does this do? It calls find user. Okay, right. Okay, so let's go to this. So I'll go GD, go to definition, find user. Here's find user over here, and we see that it takes a query string or a query as a string as a parameter. So we go over here and check what does it do. Um, tx.query.where, and then the actual query over here. I assume tx stands for transaction. So which means we're gonna need to do something here when the email comes in. We're gonna need to do something about it before it even, or right after we query it from the database, or before we even retrieve it from the database. And for this, we can use collation. What collation is just a bunch of database rules for how data is retrieved, queried, and sorted from um, your relational database, right? Another thing we want to do over here is that when the email comes in, well, before we use collation, well, when the email comes in, what I was going to do here is maybe lowercase it first. But since we're going to use collation instead, the database collation, it won't matter what case the email comes in, the case, I mean, whether it's uppercase or lowercase. So yeah, I've already looked through this file and I already saw usage of the collation over here somewhere. So collate, and this actually does the trick for us. And interestingly, this over here, find user in audience function. We must specify the collation in order to get case insensitive search for the JSON column. This is what we're actually looking for our email as well. So we want a case insensitive email, and this is what they have over here. So they have this field that they're getting from the database or from the table, and then they have this collate keyword and UTF-8 over here as a character encoding, Unicode, and then they've got the CI over here, which stands for case insensitive. I think this should do the trick for us, right? So I'm just gonna grab this. I'm gonna yank this, and I'm gonna go back to that find user by email and audience. Let's go to its definition over here. Find user by email and nope, wrong one. Here it is. Okay, so they grab the instance ID and the email, and this is where we want to put our correlation over here. So our rules for the email, which should be that we want this to be case insensitive when it's grabbed from the database. And since this is like our single source of truth, I think this should then take care of this bug everywhere else, because I'd suspect that any API calls and the rest will all go through this some way or another. They all go through this find email, whether it's signing in or whatever has to do with grabbing emails, user emails. I think this should be enough. Okay, and this is just in the interest of keeping this really short. And we'll write this and quit. Okay, now this was in the models directory, so I can already just run some unit tests over here. And the reason for that is because let's just list over here, or better yet, let's do that. We've got this user, which we just modified, and we've got user test over here. So we see there's a unit test already in there. Let's have a look what this looks like. User test. Okay, so this has got a bunch of tests written for us over here. It's using this really cool testing library over here. Testify. Really cool name, by the way. And we can have a look at what that looks like over here. So let's head over to GitHub. Testify. A really cool tagline over here. Thou shalt write tests. Okay, and there's some sample code for us over here. Assert.equal, assert.not equal, nil, not nil. So standard testing library stuff, just like you'd have in Jest or just about any other testing library, I guess. And this is what they're using over here as well. And let's just have a look at what some of the tests looks like over here. Um, test to update app metadata. Let's look for a really simple one over here. Test to update user metadata. Test find user by email and audience over here. So um, this should, I think that looks good. There's one in particular I'm looking for over here, and that was duplicate. Test is duplicate email over here. And reason I'm pointing this function out over here is that um, this ultimately calls that find user by email, right? And if there is a duplicate email, and it will find it. Let's just have a look. There's this, it calls this here is duplicate email. And let's go to the definition of this, GD. And this is right here at the bottom, and you can see it's in this user.go file over here. This duplicate email calls find user by email and audience. Let's go to the definition of that. And this is where we added this collation over here, where we make our email case insensitive. So we know that that's already taken care of. So what this means is that that test that's already there, this over here, test is duplicate email, um, would fail if we have got a duplicate email regardless of the case of the emails, right? Let's now test this out. I'm just going to clear my screen, make some space, and I'm going to go test. Now I'm running go test in this directory over here just so that you can run the unit test, so we're not doing like a full coverage test over here. So you see that test passes. We need to be sure that this actually works, so I'm just going to deliberately create a bug inside of here. And okay, let's open this user over here. I'm going to deliberately create a bug, and yeah, I'm going to take this and place it, say, here. Quit, go test. We should see our tests failing over here, and they do. And let's see why. It says over here, collation is not valid for character set binary. Okay, so at least we know that it really is actually running this against the database. It really is hitting the database. So, and we'll have a look towards the end of this video how to set all of that up. But yeah, so we know that our tests are actually being run properly. And so let's go back, user over here. I'm just gonna undo all of this, place it back where it belongs, test again. Cool, right? And I think this should be enough, right? Before we push this, one other thing I wanted to point your attention to over here is this contributing.md, and there's also a code of conduct. So this contributing.md really has some nice pointers for us, and I'm gonna do just that. I'm gonna open it, contributing.md. So first things is setup. So this will tell you all the tools you need. In this case, you need to have Go installed. So I've got my Go installed over here. It's actually supposed to be Go version, my bad. 1.16. Okay, so I've got a newer version. You need to have this Soda CLI. Now, typically you're going to run into tools like these. I mean, this is my first time running into this Soda CLI, so I checked out the link. Helpful that they have it there. And with Soda CLI, they should tell us what it is. Just going to zoom in over here. It says a small CLI toolbox to manage your database. It can help you to create a new database, drop existing, and so on. Great. And we should see some examples of it somewhere right here. So we can create databases and drop them. we're not doing any of this because this is already being done for us over here. Also Docker to run tests. Just for brevity, I didn't run Docker. I do have it installed, but I didn't run it over here because, well, I've got a battery issue, so my MacBook is always overheating. So Docker, for some reason, just never runs over here. It always overheats, so I just left that out. But they do give us an alternative to that, luckily, over here, which was that um, you can also, it says here, you can alternatively, you can start MySQL as at, well, first over here, make sure that your database can be accessed with user root without a password. And then they have it here. Alternatively, you can run MySQL inside a Docker container. So this already tells me that I can have MySQL already running on my machine, and it needs to just have root without password. So in preparation for this, I installed MySQL and I also removed my root password. Um, and then I had to run these commands over here. We can run them as well. So let's just have a look. So MySQL user root, no password, and there it is. I can then say show databases, and I've got these over here. I'll go through dev and go through test, and this shows that I've ran these commands over here, dev and test. Yeah, I'm gonna quit this. Well, let's just see. Let's use go through test and select. No, let's show tables firstly. Got test users, a bunch of other tables over here, and select all from test users. There's gonna be nothing inside of there because I mean the test will delete everything after running. So yeah, so quit that. But yeah, just for interest sake, I guess let's see what running these commands would have done for us. Okay. Let's just make sure firstly that we are in the right directory. So I'm gonna go to pip projects, go through, and I'm gonna run make migrate dev. Yeah, and that runs successfully. You can see here, create users, status applied, and the rest of these tables, right. You also see some SQL statements ran for us over here. I think there should have been some create table statements over here. Yep, create table if not exists, test audit log entries, and a bunch of others. Okay, cool. So all the tables were created. This was for our test environment, and the same can be done for, which did I run again? Dev. Okay, so let's run test. And the same happens for test. Now I'd already ran this beforehand, so that's why you saw already when I opened my MySQL database, you could see the tables already in there. Another one over here is this make test. This I deliberately left out because this will run the full suite of tests, and this won't run properly because firstly I don't have my Docker containers set up. So there's a lot of other like API level stuff that's going to be tested. That's just not going to run over here. But let's see. Why not? Make test. Should take a couple of seconds to run. So I expected these errors. There's a lot of them. I think a couple of them will pass and the rest should fail. Right. And I suspect that this is because these tests assume that there's a Docker container already running, which there isn't in my case. So let's just cancel that. So we see a lot of failed tests. And then there should have also been some that passed, like those integration, or rather the unit tests from the users or the models directory. But that's much further up. One way to go about this also would have been to just make test and output the the results like so. Okay, but no point in doing that now. Also important over here is, um, yeah, pull requests. There's some housekeeping rules, I guess. Yeah, so you have to fork the repo first, some instructions, and then so after you fork the repo, you've added code that should be tested. Add tests. I deliberately didn't add tests over here because I'm making so few changes that they're already covered by the existing tests, I think. Um, Otherwise, the existing tests like that test the duplicate users and test user creation would fail, especially the duplicate users test that I think will already cover this scenario as well. And I didn't change any APIs, but it does say, yeah, if you change APIs, update the documentation. Ensure the test suite passes. Now here, I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't run the Docker container because of this issue right here. But yeah, test suite at least ran the unit tests over here, right? And that passes. And make sure your code lengths. Now this over here, this would apply if I had created a new function over here. So and one way to do that your code lengths, um, firstly that you follow like Go conventions for writing your code, and also useful would be to document your code. So when you write documentation like this, I mean these kind of comments, name of function, like this over here, find user by ID, name of function, find the user, and all of that. Okay, so this already tells you what this function does, but quite helpful as well is that when you have this, hit Shift K over here, and it gives you this helpful little bit of documentation. Okay, my one of my Vim plugins over here, which is COC Go, is a little buggy. This is actually supposed to show in a pop-up, but I guess yeah, we leave it for now. But yeah, so this already helps with your tooling. In VS Code, this would show also as a pop-up. Yeah, okay. So that's done. I think we've ticked all boxes. I'm gonna quit. Just gonna check the status. Okay, and I'm gonna run a diff on this just to be sure I didn't mess with anything else, right? So this is a nice way also to review our changes. So email, firstly, I lowercase the email, and then so I'll remove the just plain email over here that comes in as an argument of this function, and I'm replacing it with this email, which is a lowercase email. And another change over here is that I added this collate over here, and this is just a database rule to tell it that it should use this character encoding over here, and it should be case insensitive. So anytime we doing any sign-ins, grabbing users or users by email, the case of the email shouldn't matter. It's still the same email. Cool. So I can add this user.go. It's added, and then I can add a commit message. Get commit. Here I'd use Cometizen. I haven't really set it up. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't set it up yet for this project. Yeah, so okay. I'm gonna just run git commit, add a message. With Cometizen, it would help me construct the message the right way. I mean, by the right way, I mean follow conventions that I used throughout here. Through all these, let's see. Do we have any commit messages from here? Yeah, like here. So you can see the convention over here. If it's a fix, they have a fix, a colon, and then what the fix does. And they would have this for features and other things, chores and the like. And a really useful tool for that is Cometizen. Cometizen over here. I didn't set it up for this project, but yeah, here they have it. And what do they say about it? Designed for teams, main purpose is to define a standard way of committing rules and communicating it. Okay, so yeah, so we know what that does. So I'm gonna say this is a fix. And what are we fixing? Case insensitive emails. Okay, I'm just gonna say case insensitive emails when signing up or retrieving this or signing in. I think this will also apply to forgot password, but again, because we went for that single source of truth, where we grab the email from the, where we grab the user by email. I think that takes care of all those other scenarios. One other thing I'm a little worried about over here is uh, when you're fixing a bug, I think it helps to have the to say which bug you're fixing, and to have, so you usually have this on the issue itself. There'll be this issue ID. I don't know if I can call it an issue ID or number, but it helps to say which bug you're fixing, and it's this over here. Now, I'd usually rely on Committizen to help me with this because it asks you through the prompts, which are you fixing an issue or a bug? If so, which one is it? Okay, so I'm gonna just add that in there. Uh, Increasing sensitive emails when signing up, fixes issue 89. 89. Okay, and that looks clean, I think. Our commit tree is clean, and I'm a push. Now, before I push, I just want to check that what my remote repo is. Get remote, my upstream rather. Okay, so I've got my origin over here, and then I've got my upstream over there. So upstream will be where it's actually gonna go to eventually. So firstly, I'm gonna push to origin over here, and then once I've pushed to origin, I'm then gonna make a pull request for the awesome team over at Superbase to review and yeah, and give me feedback. And if they don't like the fix, then they'll hopefully give me some feedback with some pointers. And yeah, otherwise they might approve it. So let's go for that. Git push origin. I'm not sure if it's master or I think it's the branch is master. That's what it says over here. So git push origin master. Okay, so made our first push, and now let's go and make our first pull request. So I'm gonna head over to my Git repo over here. Okay. It's been a while since I last did this. I mean, not for open source, of course, internally where I work, but I think it would be under pull requests over here. Make a new pull request. Okay, so it's comparing the changes. So here it is. Email, and that over there. Yeah, I think that should do it. And I think it should be as easy as making the pull request over here. Okay. Don't know why this went away, but I think, was it 89? 89. Yeah, cool. Let's create the pull request. And that's been sent through. Okay, so yeah, that was my very first ever attempt at contributing to open source. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for checking out my very first YouTube video. And yeah, peace.